Welcome to another episode of Havlicek Stole the Pod. I'm your host, Alex Goldberg. With me, as always, is Dr. Justin Quinn and Daniel Donahue. And we have a very special guest that we are going to both intro and announce after we get through the news really quick at the top of the episode. We're just going to jump right in because we only got about 10 minutes or so. The Boston Celtics, since the last time we podcasted, lost their cup game that we previewed to the Orlando Magic, 123-110. Hitting threes was the Magic's game. They started playing fast. They did all of the things that we talked about how they weren't doing in the podcast before, and they won that game. And then Boston bounced back with their rematch with Orlando, winning it 111-107 shortly afterwards. They then punctuated that stretch with a loss to the Sixers in yet another one-possession game with Philly, which seems to be the theme this year. This one, they lost 102-100. They had a number of strong play from Luka Garza, strong play from Jaylen Brown, strong play from a bunch of people, and they still lost. And then they responded by blowing out the hapless Memphis Grizzlies, who are in a real tailspin. They beat them 131-95. They now sit at 11th place in a very interesting Eastern Conference. So a couple of players made some statements. Luka Garza, Jordan Walsh, a few others. Derek White seems to have bounced back a little bit. And Peyton Pritchard is kind of slowly finding his footing. Jaylen Brown continues to be the best player on this team by a pretty comfortable margin. We'll swing it to you fellas. Justin, what did we see from any of these games, the 2 wins or the 2 losses?
Well, I'm going to start with a Memphis game just because it seems to be the first game where we really kind of saw all of what they hope the front office hopes the Celtics are going to be this season. The depth-winged. They look like the players that we want them to be. They're not going to do it all season long. I don't think this is who the team is every night, but they're moving in the direction of being the team we saw against the Grizzlies. Caveat, both teams were on the second night of a back-to-back. Both teams were very tired. But overall, the shooting from the high-volume guys, with Sam excluded, have mostly righted the ship. And, Luka Garza looks like he has a place on this team that actually works in a way that is functional. We even saw a little bit of Chris Boucher again for the first time in a while. It wasn't super impactful, but it's nice to see that he can at least contribute a little bit. Overall, I think that this game might stand out as the first of a number of wins with the team. Sorry, that wasn't me. With the team getting into the thick of an easier chunk of the schedule.
Daniel, what were your observations from either the 2 wins or the 2 losses, or both?
Yeah, just to talk about, I guess, all of them pretty quickly. I mean, I guess toot my own horn a little bit. I think you said the same too, Justin. When we were talking to Cody, we said, okay, versus the Magic, 2-game series, they're probably going to split. That's exactly what they end up doing. I mean, they're good enough to hang with some of those elite teams, which I think the Magic will eventually be. But I don't think they're quite good enough to reliably beat them. So going 1-1 against them, pretty expected. And then that Philly loss, the execution late in the game, that hurt to see. Like, of all people, Andre Drummond disrupting Derek White, causing that close loss. Like that stings a bit. They've just had a few of those losses, whether it was at home against Utah or the other opening night against Philly. But last night was a good bounce back win. I was there for that. I mean, like you said, Alex, that Grizzlies team, obviously they don't have a job, but they're just not very good overall. They're kind of in disarray. So you take that win still because that's a bad team that you kind of have to beat, because we'd probably be having a very different conversation if they lose that game, and even if it's on a second night of back-to-back. But I'm just looking ahead to the Celtics schedule a little. They got the Clippers Sunday. In between, they have 3 days of rest, which is a lot in today's NBA. And then they have 2 games against the Nets. So if they really want to right the ship and get above 500, they're 6-7. Like, now's the chance. This is 3 straight very winnable games for them.
I just want to briefly touch on, despite Jaylen Brown and here we go, great, love sirens in the background. Despite Jaylen Brown being very good in pretty much all of these games, I do have to ding him in the Philly loss. He has to box out there, and in general, the Celtics have to know that in critical situations, rebounding and finishing possessions matters, and you have to go all out to get those. Justin Edwards was on a heater. He played great. VJ Edgecombe continues to have an excellent rookie season, but the Celtics could have won that game with just some marginally better execution. You have to get the board there, and you have to box out, and you have to rebound as a team. And until this team does learn how to handle their rebounding problem, I think we're going to see more inconsistency issues with them. We'll run through some other pieces of the news really quick because we do have to get to our guest soon. The big news in the NBA that is a relief to many Mavs fans, I would hope, that Nico Harrison is no longer employed by the Dallas Mavericks. After the stunning Luka Doncic trade from last year, he was the target of ire and ridicule from everybody in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and now he no longer has a job.
How far beyond that?
Yes, I think that's probably fair. League ridicule as well. This has sparked questions about whether the Dallas Mavericks will be punting on this season, despite drafting Cooper Flag #1 overall. It appears they are going to be fielding calls on a number of players on the team in the post-Nico Harrison era. Anthony Davis has been mentioned. That seems difficult, but we'll see. And meanwhile, the Los Angeles Clippers, who you mentioned earlier, Daniel, are reeling with both the fact that they are not very good at basketball and also that Bradley Beal is out for the year with a hip fracture. Not a good injury to have in your mid to late 30s as an NBA basketball player. This poses the following questions for the Boston Celtics. There are two names that are being batted around as possible trade targets that are semi-realistic. If you're looking for Anthony Davis and Green, don't think that's going to be happening. So sorry. But there might be another big man in Dallas who could be on the market in Daniel Gafford. And Ivica Zubac could be also gettable, probably for a pretty high price, as he's still a very good center.
Oh, yeah.
But both of those guys are potentially in the mix as far as center options are concerned. I'll let you each pick one. Dr. Quinn, between Zubac or Gafford, pick one to talk about. Are they gettable? And, we'll take it from there.
I'll start with Zubac, I think. It would, as you suggested, take a pretty big haul. It would basically be the connecting piece that Boston is looking to add as the main incoming talent for another era. But he makes a little bit more. I think he makes like around 20 million-ish, if I'm not mistaken, which would fit like 18 or 20 million. Oh, we've got a Shea Serrano just coming in shortly, I think. So I'm going to have to hold that opinion.
Well, thanks for spoiling it, Justin. Our guest today, Shea Serrano, will be joining us shortly. And we're going to get into a discussion of his book and a number of other things. Just a moment. Well, in the previous segment, Justin spoiled who our special guest for this episode is. So we have him here today. Shea Serrano is here to talk about his new book, Expensive Basketball, as well as a number of other topics around the NBA. But before we get into that, as always with our guests, we got to let them steal the pod. So Shea, it's your time to shine. You can steal the pod. Take this over for a minute, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you want. And here's the thing. You get to talk about basketball, the Spurs, the Celtics, Victor Wembanyama, what you had for breakfast this morning. You get to take this in any direction that you want to go. And we just have to follow along. That's how it works at Havlicek Stole the Pod. So the floor is yours. What do you want to talk about?
Is this like a filibuster situation where I have to talk solely, or am I allowed to ask questions as well?
You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to rant. Okay. You are allowed to do whatever. Perfect. It's freestyle.
Here's what I want to know, and I have been curious about this just as a basketball fan. But you guys, I'm assuming you guys are in Boston. Is that true? Somewhere?
Mexico City.
No.
What the hell are you doing in Mexico City with the Boston Celtics podcast.
It's a long story, but I anthropological research, and then my wife found me on OkCupid.
I'm in Brooklyn, for what that's worth.
I'm in Boston, pretty much.
Okay, thank you. This is a conversation from me and Daniel. That's it. You two, Justin and Alex, you guys can get the hell out of here. Here's my question.
All right, sounds good.
Here's my question. And I'm in San Antonio. I've been here since I was born. I left to go to college. I lived in Houston for 14 years, and we came back home several years ago. This is where we live here now. But in San Antonio, there are a group of players, a group of like former Spurs players who were not the top level guys, not Timmy or Tony or Manu or David or even Sean Elliott, not like that level of guys. But there's a group of guys underneath that who are like not quite folk heroes in San Antonio, but beloved. These are journeyman players who stopped by for a couple of years, or they were a small part of a championship team, and so because of that, we love them forever. Right? Some easy examples are Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr had a run in the 2003 Western Conference Finals against the Dallas Mavericks where he came in and hit 4 threes. Boom, 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 boom. That ended up opening the game up for the Spurs to come back and win. They go on to win the championship. So in San Antonio, Steve Kerr is like that fucking dude, right? Same with like Speedy Claxton, Vinny Del Negro, Willie Anderson. There's like a group of players underneath here. Derek Anderson, Lloyd Sweet Pea Daniels, who like if you see him out, you go, oh hell yeah, what's up, man? Nice, but you're not like freaking out, and you're not, it's not like you saw Tim somewhere. I'm curious who those players are for the Celtics. What who's in that group? The beloved, like cult figure sort of ex-Celtics players who they show them on the jumbotron during a game, and everybody's like, "Yeah, Antoine Walker's here," or whoever. I don't know, but who are they? Like, can you give me a few of them?
Yeah, pretty much most games, Leon Poe is around.
That's exactly who I was going to say.
Yeah,
that's
he's
my
got
guy.
an official role with the team. I think I forget what his role is.
He's
exactly,
like an ambassador. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's around a lot, and I mean, whenever I see him like snaking through the tunnels, people are like giving him fist bumps, all of that. Other guys like Brian Scalabrine, he's a commentator now, so people see him around all the time. He still lives around here. But yeah, and at least for the Spurs guys, I think of Matt Bonner because he's from New Hampshire.
Yeah,
and he obviously wasn't a huge part of those championship teams, but he was there for some of that. So any New Hampshire
he guarded LeBron in the finals, and he did okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I will say I think Isaiah Thomas is almost certainly going to be one of those guys whenever he does hang them up. That feels like a lock for the Celtics, definitely.
You guys still owe him like $80 million.
Correct.
I want to bring that up.
That's Danny. That's Danny Ainge's job. That's not ours.
And a knee.
Yeah.
Too.
That's true.
Okay. Wait, so that's 4. We've got 4 so far. Give me one more. Just one more. Wait, Matt Bonner, did he play for the Celtics? He didn't play for the Celtics?
No. I was just saying him because of the Spurs connection. No.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at 3. I need 2 more.
Paul Pierce comes back all the time, but he's too high caliber. Yeah.
All right, I got a couple potential ones for you here. So first off, one that probably would have been the case, but will no longer be the case is Tony Allen, for a number of reasons. But Phil Pressey is an assistant coach for the Celtics now, and he was on the team for like not very long as a deep third string bench point guard, but he was like part of the Brad Stevens early revival, and he made an impression in the city. Like Phil Pressey, weirdly, I think has a decent amount of clout in Boston. For context, I live in Brooklyn now, but I lived in Boston for like most of my life up to that point, of last 2 years or so.
I would have said Kendrick Perkins,
one more.
but he kind of burned that bridge.
Well, we said Leon
Poe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the first one.
No, he said James Posey.
No, but
I said Leon
can't say
Poe.
James Posey.
Oh, then James Posey.
James Posey could be. He's been a coach though all around other teams. Like I forget who he's with right now. I think actually the Blazers. He almost became the head coach.
Wait a minute. Hold on, guys. We know the
I
answer
like
to this.
James
We
Posey.
we know the answer to this. It's Eddie House. Come
Oh,
on.
duh.
Eddie House.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Absolutely.
Dude, Eddie House is a
Absolutely.
legend in Boston. He can go to any bar in Boston and get a free drink.
What about when Ray Charleston smacked the headband off his head almost though? Like does somebody mention that to him? Does
I'm
somebody
sure that
bring that
somebody
up?
has.
I love the James Posey inclusion. I remember there being an interview with after Posey had won a title with the Heat, and then he shows up on the Celtics, and Pat Riley was doing an interview, and he was like talking to Boston fans. He's like, "You guys are gonna love James Posey when he starts hitting late in the playoff threes," and then he did exactly that thing, and y'all went. It was like fucking Pat Riley knew what he was talking about.
He did.
Pat Riley.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Pat Riley a little bit in this episode, I think. But,
Right.
well, I really like that steal. I think that's one of the better ones that we've had. Discussion of all of the slept-on Boston legends. That's good stuff. We're going to get into the book as well as some of the other, discussions around basketball legends and mythology and other stuff like that now. So let's start with a closer look. First off, Shea, of course, for the listeners who don't know, which at this point I don't know how you couldn't, but Shea just dropped a book, Expensive Basketball. It's came out at the end of October with Grand Central Publishing. It's available where, Shea?
It's available everywhere you buy books, but I always encourage everybody to buy it from an independent bookstore because those are the best places. Everybody if you work in an independent bookstore, it's like talking to somebody who has like a basketball podcast. Like you do that because you love that. Working at a bookstore, a person like works at a bookstore, they fucking love it. And there's nothing better than talking to somebody about something that they love. So you go in there and you're going to be like, I'm here for this book. And they're going to go, that's great. Here's 4 other books that you might like. And it's not an algorithm. It's like human doing it. And it's way better. Go to an indie bookstore.
My boy Matt Kirby works at a indie bookstore in New York. Go check that out. Shout out to Matt.
Which one?
So
which bookstore? And then which bookstore?
I don't know. I'm going to ask him, and then I will send you.
What a terrible friend!
I know I'm a terrible friend. I'm sorry, but he's a Knicks fan, so it's like whatever.
That's understandable.
So Shea's book, Expensive Basketball, focuses on, among other things, the emotional side of the sport and how we feel about the sport in its biggest, most dramatic, most special, best moments, the kind of ineffable qualities that make basketball such a great game that we, talk about and constantly are yapping about. Everything from the final 196 seconds of Kobe's playing career to Sue Bird on the back pedal, from Tim Duncan being a terror in San Antonio over the course of 2 decades, from Larry Bird, pointing at where he's going to shoot and then shooting over guys and all the apocryphal legends that come with that. Expensive Basketball is an affirmation of our feelings as fans, observers, and general lovers of the game. And it covers some of the great moments in NBA history, which we are going to talk a little bit about here. But this is a primarily Celtics forward podcast. And so we want to start out with this. Speaking of Celtics forwards, Larry Bird features somewhat prominently in this book. The Boston Celtics also feature pretty prominently in this book. Can you walk us through the presence of the Celtics in Expensive Basketball, some of the things that you kind of paid the most close attention to?
Sure. So when I'm putting the book together, the way that it starts is first you identify like, okay, we're going to write this book. It's going to be like about basketball things that feel important. We're going to call it Expensive Basketball. So like, what's some stuff that feels expensive on a basketball court? Like stuff you can't count. Like Magic Johnson in the open court. That feels expensive. Steph Curry at the Olympics. That feels expensive. You're doing that, right? And so when I started out, I'm just open up a spreadsheet and then just start sort of riffing, just typing. What are all of the first things you think of? Dennis Rodman tipping rebounds to himself. Damian Lillard against Houston in the playoffs. You're just doing like that, right? Like without thinking about it, let's just get down as much as possible first and go from there. And so I did that, I typed that list out, and it's probably, it's like 150 things long. And I said, okay, cool. This is a good start. Now let's start digging through here and see. And as I was going through it, there were like 14 Larry Bird things in there that were like boom, 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 boom every so often. And I'm like, all right, well, I know I need to have a Larry Bird chapter in here. Let's figure out what that chapter is going to be. And this thing kept happening where with us, there's like a certain class of players where when you talk about them, they number one, they just have so many like iconic, unforgettable moments that when you're thinking about them, you think about like all of them in this sort of rush, in this way that it's not like a linear. In 1987 he did this, in 1985 he did, it's like you're bouncing around. Oh, you're doing the thing of like, oh shit, remember when he stole the ball from Isaiah? Oh shit, do you remember the like game against the Hawks when they're like cheering for him on the, oh my God, do you remember when he caught the rebound himself and laid it up like off of his own? Oh my God, do you remember when he dove on the floor and slammed his face? Oh my, you start doing that, right? And it's just all out of order in this like weird sort of way. And for some reason, when I was thinking about that, I'm like, all right, it's hard to just settle on one Larry Bird thing, but this thing of it was like all hits you at the same time is interesting to me as an idea. Let's figure out a way to do that. And then I just ended up falling back to this episode of Mad Men where Don Draper is doing an ad presentation, and it's for Kodak for the carousel. And it's like the monologue he gives there, where he's like, it allows you to travel through like time the way a child would. There's no forward or backward, whatever. And it's just like, that's what I feel like when I'm watching Larry Bird highlights. It's all out of order, but it doesn't matter. It's just like Larry Bird being magical. And so that's what the chapter ended up being for him. It was like most of the other players, it's like one thing. What's the one thing that well, with Larry, it was like 25 things. And that ends up being like one mega thing. But so, there was that part that's in there. There's a bunch of, as you mentioned, a bunch of Celtic stuff in there. But that Larry one was like a hard chapter to figure out. But once I figured it out, then I was like, oh, this is exactly what it needs to be.
I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well. The methodology you use of trying to like make the qualitative quantifiable, I guess is a way to put it. I think it really comes together with the way that you use that Don Draper scene. You have to have seen it, obviously, for it to like have the right kind of impact. But if you have, and you should, I mean, it's been out for a while, and it's one of the greatest things on TV that's ever been made.
Coming to HBO soon.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah, so
It just really like summed up the way that Larry kind of like occupies real estate in our collective minds at this point. So I wanted to say that I really, in particular, recommend that chunk, not just because it's about the Celtics, but because it's really well written in terms, no, seriously, in terms of like what it is you were actually trying to do as a writer.
Yeah,
Justin, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say that means a lot. Because I'm always a little like nervous to go on a team specific pod if I wrote about their guy, because I'm like, because you guys were around, like your opinion will mean more than like if you guys said, hey, kind of, you didn't, it sucks, wasn't great. That would hurt my feelings a lot more than just like a non-Celtics person. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Justin loves to throw the Q words around, qualitative and quantifiable. Maybe it has something to do with his last name. I don't know. Yeah, no, to your point, Shea, though, there are a number of Celtics references and discussions in the book. So this pod is obviously named after one of those indelible moments, John Havlicek, and the big steal at the end of the 1965 Eastern Division Championship. It's kind of considered, one of the great all-time Celtic stories ever. Where does this moment feature in the book, and kind of what does this look like for you as far as expensive basketball moments are concerned in the history of the game?
This for me is one of those moments where it's like it's an integral part of the fabric of professional basketball, but it's obviously not a thing I experienced live. It's obviously not a thing I have a profound emotional connection to. I know the clip, I know the play, I know like the players involved, but it doesn't feel the same as watching like a Larry Bird thing for me, because I saw that actually happen. So it's like one of those things where you go, oh, I understand the importance, but I don't feel it the way that I feel the other stuff. Right. And so that's where it sits for me. So like one of the chapters, one section of the book, there's one part called grail stories and ghost stories. And what the book proposes there is that every basketball team, every franchise has like a single greatest play. The like this is the defining play of the franchise, and they also have the single worst play, like the most heartbreaking thing that has ever happened to them. So when I was putting it together for the Celtics, it's obviously harder to do that for the Celtics than like the Charlotte Hornets or whatever, because the Celtics have 15 like actual candidates for the greatest play in Celtics history. Havlicek Stole the Ball is one of them, but I ended up obviously going with the Larry Bird one because it's like I knew, because I felt that one. I even now, and again, I don't know if this is because it happened while I was alive, but if I watch a video of both of those, one of them makes me feel something, the other one doesn't, and candidly, that's what it is. So when I'm putting the book together, that's why I settled on what I settled on.
Interesting. I'm going to actually freestyle a little bit here because we have an interesting setup here where we have multiple generations of Celtics fans kind of cross section here. And I'm going to go around the horn and just ask Daniel and Justin, for y'all, what are your Celtics grail moments? Just off the top, what do you got? Start with you, Justin.
I mean, Shea already mentioned I didn't realize what I was watching when I watched it because I was like 10 maybe. But the Larry Bird scoop up his own miss is definitely one of them. I'm trying to think of other ones yeah, no, I'll go with that one.
I'm going to go next, and I feel like I can represent my coming of age Celtics memory. For me, it's KG falling backwards and throwing the ball into the hoop to
the and one
over Pau Gasol to kind of kick off officially what was going to be an actual blowout and the kind of wrap up of Game 6 of the 2008 finals. I just remember seeing that moment live and knowing instantly that there was no chance that they were going to lose that game. That was such a cool thing to be, kind of present for and watching. It's like, oh, this actually rocks. Daniel, what is your Celtics grail moment?
Yeah, it's not quite a coming of age moment because I was already an adult, but I'm gonna go recent and say that Pritchard buzzer beater because I was actually in the building for that.
That was pretty
And
dope.
the crowd pop I heard was the craziest thing ever. I mean, I'm way up high, but Bob Ryan's literally in front of me, and like he is just so shocked when it happens. And this is a guy who's probably seen everything with the Celtics. I mean, he's seen all that Larry Bird stuff. I don't know if you guys watched the Celtic City documentary, but he talked all about that on it. But even he was just caught up in this moment where it felt like a palpable feeling of they were going to win. Like everybody knew was going to happen after that. Kind of like what you were saying, Alex, with that KG moment. Obviously, over a decade ago, but
yeah.
Can I point out something here?
Please.
When I was working on the book, trying to figure out what it was going to be about, part of the research included, let me talk to people who like know basketball, who love basketball. Just you're trying to like shake loose an idea is what you're doing. And when I'm going around talking to these people, I would always ask them, one of the questions I would always ask was like, tell me your favorite basketball memory. Just like a thing you experienced in person, on TV, it doesn't matter who you're, I don't care about like any of the, like, there's no qualifiers here. Just like, what's a thing that when you think about it, it's important to you. And in each time I asked that question, the answer always followed the same pattern. And I just watched it play out 3 separate times here for each of you. All 3 of you were like, Justin was like, oh, I didn't realize what I saw when it was happening, but it was like this like magical thing. And Alex is like, the realization we're going to win this championship is like guaranteed. And like when he hits this shot, Daniel's like he mentions that the sound of the crowd and that Bob Ryan, the legendary Bob Ryan, is in front of him losing his mind too. It's like nobody here said a number, not at all. Like that's not a thing that you think about when you think about why do you love basketball. It's always feelings first, and then the numbers come later. It's like a supplemental is how they should be, and that's why every time I talk to somebody and they answered that question after a while, I was like, oh, this is what the book should be. It should be this way, set up this way. Feelings first with some numbers in there, but it's always, you guys are a Celtics forward podcast. This is a feelings forward book with some numbers in there, because that's how anybody who talks about anything that they love, that's the path it follows, and that's what I wanted the book to be.
That would be
Love
extremely funny, though, if my Celtics Grail moment was like reading off the stats from like when
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas had like a really efficient game in 2016
Player
or something.
efficiency rating was 37.4. Oh shit!
Right.
Oh shit!
I'm sure there are some calculator guys that is a thing for, and we love the
Definitely.
calculator guys. We love everyone. It's all good, but not necessarily our vibe here. So speaking of emotional aspects of the sport, the ghost stories component was interesting to me because, you know, despite the Celtics being this kind of franchise that just keeps winning over the course of multiple decades, they've also been in so many high stakes moments that they have had their fair share of, you know, ghost stories as well. You know, I think of like the big one for me is 2012 LeBron James, the nuclear arrival, where he just buzzsaws through this Celtics team that was like plucky, but probably not good enough to win the title. And then he just takes them apart limb from limb. 45-point masterpiece. LeBron has arrived and he decapitates the seas. For me, that's my Celtics ghost story. But I think it kind of segues nicely into actually a podcast that we did with my buddy Evan a while back, where we talk about kind of the great villains in Celtics history. And it seems like, you know, basketball and, you know, the emotional quality around the game, it lends itself well to these kind of hero villain stories, which obviously shift depending on your perspective. But it kind of ties in nicely to that podcast. So I'm going to let Daniel kind of take things over here. You know, we talked a lot about some of the big villains in Celtics history. And I guess I'm curious, just from an outsider perspective, Shea, you know, you don't have any dog in this fight per se. I'm curious to hear kind of what you have to say with regard to, you know, Daniel walking us through some of those memories and some of those folks that kind of that we ran up against. Daniel, take it away.
Yeah, for definitely people my age, I think LeBron would be the common enemy. I mean, for a lot of franchises, honestly, like there's LeBronto, just and then all the moments you're talking about, Alex, like Game 6, him dunking over Jason Terry. I remember I was there as a kid. That was in the playoffs, but
Jesus.
still, just like a complete ownership of the moment right there, and just in the most embarrassing play in basketball. But I was wondering, Shay, if you kind of lean on the side of the fence where LeBron might be the biggest Celtics villain, or perhaps who you were talking about earlier, actually, Pat Riley, because he was behind some of those Heat teams, obviously behind
Decades.
the Lakers.
The Lakers.
Yeah. I mean, even coach the Knicks, that wasn't the peak of the rivalry of the Celtics, but he's been involved with every one of the major Celtics rivals. So I was just wondering for your thoughts on that.
That's a tricky question because what you have here is like you have two separate ideologies that are sort of warring to get the correct answer. You either have, well, the villain has to be a player. It's got to be like a guy who was on the court doing the thing. There's somebody's going to argue that side. And then the other side is going to go, well, okay, I get that, but this guy the player was like, that's a 4-year stretch. This guy over here has been for fucking 40 years. We've had to worry about him. We've had to think about him. He has like caused us pain. I would always go to like the player. I hated Kobe Bryant more than I hated Phil Jackson. You know what I mean? So I'm inclined to lean in the direction of LeBron for this particular argument. LeBron over Pat Riley.
I noticed that in the book you didn't talk about that play where Rajon Rondo got his elbow hooked by Dwayne Wade, and it basically took him out of commission for the rest of the series. I think he tried playing on one hand, if I remember correctly. It didn't go particularly well. For like moments like that really stick out for me as well in these kind of questions. But the whole like boogeyman aspect of Riley, like by the end of that pod that we did, I was pretty convinced. But I mean, I think LeBron is probably the most constant because, like, one thing I noticed about like ghosts, like the ghost stories, I think like they're for the way that we're framing like some of these as like villains in these moments, like all of these great moments for some of your readers are like the exact opposite for other
Yeah.
readers, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, but also like sometimes a Grail story isn't like a ghost story for another franchise or vice versa. It's like
Really?
a yeah, like you think the Grail story for the I don't know, we'll pick a team for the Cavaliers is like LeBron's chase down block on Iguodala.
Yeah.
But you could make an argument that that's not the ghost story for the Golden State Warriors. It could be like you know what I mean. It doesn't have to. They're often
They're not
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm
That's
glad
a fair point.
I'm glad that there was no like Spurs villain that y'all were gonna mention here because then I was gonna be annoyed. I will say though, the closest that we had to a villain, Celtics wise, is a couple of years ago. I was working on this book called Hip Hop and Other Things, and the researcher for it, the researcher and fact checker, is this guy named Dart Adams, who's like a
Yeah,
Oh,
we
I love
love
Dart.
Dart. That's
okay,
our
you know,
guy.
okay, great, like a Boston guy through and through. And so it'd be like I'll be working on the book. I would email him some questions, or I'm looking for this information, or this chapter is ready, or whatever. And one night the Spurs and the Celtics were playing while I was working on this book, and the Spurs were up by like 20 something, and so I was very excited, very happy we're going to beat the
Ooh, I
Celtics.
think I might know the game you're talking about.
And then
The Tatum
Jason
game.
Tatum goes fucking nuts,
Yup.
goes nuts, and
63 or something.
yeah, he just
60.
destroyed us. He goes crazy, and I was so annoyed and so mad. And so after the game was over, like 10 minutes later, I emailed Dart like a Google Doc, and I'm like, Dart, hey, I finished another chapter. Can you fact check this for me? Like, it's important. Like, can you get to it tonight? And he's like, yeah, I got you. But when he opened it, all that I had written in there, it was just a one. It just said Jason Tatum sucks, and that's all that all that was. Like,
That's
and
bold.
miserable.
Love it.
What a miserable night that was. What a miserable night. He's so good, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he is.
That's
we,
still his
we,
career
we
high
really
too.
would love. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah,
Would
terrible.
love to see Jason Tatum back on the court soon. JT, if you're listening, we want you back. Good luck. I am curious because we actually did have some Spurs villains that we were gonna kind of run through,
Come on.
and so yeah, no, I figured. Well, so one of them, of course, is our guy, our former guy, Ray Allen, right? We have to at least
UConn
talk
fan. This was real difficult for me on a number of levels because I also like the Spurs. They're not my main team, but I like them.
Yeah. So I Ray Allen comes to mind. Shane Battier comes to mind. Obviously Spurs had some rough and tumble series with Kobe and with the Suns and with all these different teams over the course of their dynastic presence with the Tim Duncan era. And then there's some new stuff. There's always Houston. There's always Dallas. Dirk. I guess I'm curious for you if you had to pick the Spurs villain, like the one that kind of stands out in your mind, and maybe this correlates with your ghost story for the Spurs as well. What are we working with?
Oh, this is so easy. It's fucking Kobe. That's who it is. Kobe
Yeah,
Bryant. Kobe Bryant beat us more times than anybody else. I thought I was like imagining that he was picking on us until I did the research and then I saw he scored more points against us than any other player like when it was important like game time playoffs when it matters he scored more points than every other player in NBA history. If you organize them against the Spurs, it's Kobe Bryant at the top. So he is for sure the my personal Spurs villain. I knew when I was working on the book the two defining players of my like adult fanhood of basketball are Tim Duncan, who I love and is my guy, and I like have this incredible adoration for him, and Kobe Bryant, who I fucking hated because he broke my heart more times than anybody else. So I knew when I was writing the book, if it's going to be like a book about players who made you feel something, well, I'm going to have both of these guys in here. They're non-negotiables. I'm going to start the book with one. I'm going to end the book with the other, and then I'll fill in the blanks in between. But yeah, Kobe is for sure. Like even still in San Antonio now, he is like he sits in this really interesting place because there are a bunch of people who hated him when he was playing, and then as soon as he retired, it became, well, we
Best
obviously
friends.
respect Kobe Bryant because we went to
Mhm.
war against this guy, and you hear him like every once in a while would say something nice about Tim Duncan in an interview, and you're like, okay, I like Kobe a little more now. There, like people walk like San Antonio is a very Mexican city, obviously, and LA is a very Mexican city, and Mexicans are drawn toward Kobe Bryant. He has got a Mexican wife. Like it was all like this interesting interplay. One of my favorite like small basketball moments is like a regular season game. Uh, this is in the Alamo Dome still, so pre SBC
Mhm.
Center, like late '90s, early 2000s situation, and the Lakers are in San Antonio. They're playing the Spurs, and Kobe comes down and he hits like a shot, and he comes down and he hits another shot. But when he gets the ball now, everybody's booing Kobe. That's what you do. He gets the ball, you boo him because he's Kobe. And he comes down, he hits a shot, and as he's going back up court, we all just finished booing him. Boo, boo, boo. He hits a shot, and as he's going back up court, he's like doing the backpedal thing, and he tells everybody he does this thing, be quiet. And you of course start booing louder when he does that. But when he does this, it's like the one time prior to his last game that I thought he was charming. He does this, everybody boos louder, and then he tripped. He trips and he falls back as he's going backwards, and then he pops up, and everybody's laughing, and then he starts laughing, and for for a half a second, you're like, I like Kobe Bryant now, and then
Yeah.
immediately
It's the worst.
back to booing like. But he's for sure
Shan,
the guy.
Shay, I'm glad we found alignment on that because for me, in my experience, Kobe was my Celtics villain, and he remained my Celtics villain throughout my adult life. Both because of how viscerally he hated Boston and the brutal finals matchups, and the fact that he did go out of his way to try and play brilliant basketball against us. And I think what drove me most insane about Kobe was actually a moment in which he didn't play particularly brilliant basketball, but won anyway and got all of the credit for it. I'm, of course,
Game
referring to
seven.
Game
Game
7 of
seven.
the 2010 finals, in which Kobe really played a pretty horrible all around game. And Pau put the team on his back. Let's be so real. In the 2010 NBA Finals, Pau Gasol went off and absolutely eviscerated the Celtics front court. And yet Kobe gets the adoration, he gets the praise, he's the Black Mamba, blah, 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 blah. And the point I wanted to make is that, I guess I'm curious because my perspective on Kobe as the villain, my ultimate Celtics villain, is that so much of what annoyed me about Kobe didn't have to do with the basketball as much as the Black Mamba personality, which to me felt extremely like this is a marketing PR thing. Like we're just creating this guy now, and we're all supposed to say that this is Kobe and this is who he's always been. And it's not that like Kobe's like wildly inefficient, like, chucker guy who will shoot his team in and out of games over and over again. So I guess I'm curious because you can't really argue that he's not like an all-time great player, but does that factor into your appreciation of Kobe as a villain, like not just the basketball but also the personality around Kobe Bryant?
The personality factors into it in the same way that like Johnny Lawrence's personality factors into him being a good villain in the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Because you say like, man, Kobe had a terrible Game 7, and he still won the finals. Like that to me is the most perfect poetic, infuriating thing that he could have done in that. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's perfect.
It drove me insane.
Perfect. It's perfect that it played out like that. It's just like, of course he would still win the game because he was the winner, and he's like, you're looking at this. There's this guy. He's tall and he's handsome and he's rich and he's talented, and it seems to always work out for him. And even when it doesn't go great, it still goes the greatest way possible. And I think it's just perfect. It's like the whole poetry of Kobe Bryant as a basketball player. It is perfect. It's like
Perfect team too.
all of the pieces that you want. Like there was never even a situation where Powell was like, "But what about me?" Never.
Right.
He didn't want to. He didn't care to do that. So it didn't affect the team at all. It was always, Kobe gets to be like the guy who's the shield for everybody. He gets to take everything on. He wants to take everything on. It was perfect. It's why it's so interesting to me, him as a basketball player when measured up against Tim Duncan, because they both are one team forever. They both win 5 championships. They've both got a Wikipedia page worth of awards that is longer than whatever. But they did everything in the exact opposite ways, and that's the stuff that when I'm writing about basketball, I'm thinking about basketball, when I'm arguing about basketball, it's just fun. He's such a great basketball personality. He's a great basketball villain for us. He's a great basketball hero for anybody who is rooting for him, and it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, I think I unfortunately agree. He was perfect. I can't think of a foil that drove me more to the brink of madness than Kobe Bryant. And we've had some good ones. I mean, Magic, of course, a little before my time, but Jimmy Butler was very irritating for the last 5 to 6 years. Steph Curry, what's fun about this is, to your point, yes, there is the history and there are the guys that we grew up with for sure. But there's also, you can see the new stuff kind of bubbling and building over the course of recent years. And I guess I'm curious, not to put you on the spot, but it seems like there's a little Chet Holmgren Wemby thing going on,
yes,
or at least it's kind of in its infancy. I guess I'm curious, do you see Chet as the potential great Spurs heel going forward, or do you think there's someone else who might fit that bill?
I don't think it's Chet. I don't think he's talented enough. Because here's the thing. If you're going to have a foil, if you're going to have a villain, it only works if you're afraid of that guy. That's the only way it could possibly work. This is why James Harden made me so mad for so many years, because I wanted for him to be the Spurs villain. I was like, you're the new guy. You're in Houston. You're right up the road. Your team is great. Win a championship so we can be afraid of you. And he never did it. And it was like, well, he can't be that guy. With Chet, you're not afraid of Chet. He's not he's not even the second best player on that team, let alone the first. He can't be that guy. He will draw obvious comparisons because they're both very tall people. They both play the same position, and every once in a while they'll guard each other. But nobody would ever in 100,000 years be like, I pick Chet over Wemby. Not ever. Not ever. With Kobe and Tim, you ask 100 people, 50 of them are picking Kobe and 50 of them are picking Tim. You know what I mean? You need that for there to be like a proper foil there. There's some very interesting, we saw it last night, there's some very interesting Steph and Wemby stuff. They're not the same age for it to be like a long-term thing, but that's there. There's some very interesting Joker and Wemby stuff that is very exciting. Chet is not, he's not the guy though. That's not to say he won't be fun to watch. And he's like a great, he wants to be a great shit talker, which is awesome. He'll be fun, but he can't be the guy. He can't be the foil, the villain.
This is why I'm kind of low key hoping that the Rockets get Giannis, just because I would love to see Wemby and Giannis become like an actual real heated divisional rivalry. That would be so cool. Yeah. No, so we've talked a lot about, villains, heroes, and, that's kind of part of this, but really, the book more broadly deals with, these kind of the expensive moments and the kind of broadly, emotional moments. And I think that's definitely kind of the focus of the book. And I'm hoping we can kind of swing the conversation back towards that. I'm curious, what are your kind of expensive moments, ones that you want to shout out for the Spurs or for any others that, kind of jump out to you as like, this really encapsulates what this book is talking about?
Well, we'll do some non-book stuff because the stuff that's in the book is already in the book. So some non-book expensive things. The 2002 Sacramento Kings, that's an expensive basketball team, One of those teams are where you make the argument that a team doesn't have to win a championship to be important, to be remembered. The 7 seconds or less, Phoenix Suns, another one.
2024 Pacers.
2024 Pacers. Yeah. That's a very more specifically, I would say Tyrese Halliburton's postseason run, 2024 postseason
Yeah.
run, or even more specific than that, Tyrese Halliburton with the game on the line is very expensive, very expensive. We did a bunch of the other ones. Let's see who else is in there. I think if we go WNBA, Chelsea Gray in an ISO, fucking forget about it. She's looking at you like you're food. Brittany Griner getting a rebound. If we want some more WNBA ones. There are a ton of them. The good thing about this as an idea, I think, is that you can sort of apply it to really whatever you want if you are willing to do enough research for it. Right? That's all that it is. It's like it is expensive basketball is just a synonym for what's something that means something to you. And I wrote about the '93 Charlotte Hornets. They didn't win anything. They won one playoff series, and that was it. They weren't a contender. They don't have anything on their page of like, here's what they did in basketball. But they were important. They meant something to me personally, but like culturally to a lot of people. That's all that this is. So you could say anything, any name, and somebody will care about it. Like there's a basketball person out there who cares about it. Here's a perfect example. In the like opening of the chapter or the opening of the book, the way that I explain what expensive basketball is, I say if someone showed you a video of Ray Allen shooting a jump shot and a video of Joakim Noah shooting a jump shot, you would look at those things and I ask you which one is more expensive, you would know the Ray Allen one. Like no context, no explanation. No, you would just know. Your heart would tell you, oh, clearly it's that one, right? Ray Allen over Joakim Noah. Literally in the interview I did immediately before this, it was with the Chicago Bulls guy, and I asked him, what's your favorite basketball moment? And his was Joakim Noah dunking on Paul Pierce in the playoffs, that first round playoff series. Remember that game? Like that was his. That was his. The guy that I used as proof that something wasn't expensive, it was expensive for him. And that's why it's that's why I enjoy it so much. We could do 50 of these books if you want. You could do a whole Celtics one. Y'all go write. You write that. You guys write that one.
All right, we'll work on that. That's a good plan. Yeah, no, I think that's a really interesting point to this because, like we think about like, kind of other iconic moments and how those intersect with like Boston and, those kind of like the ghost story, grail story, I think is a fun way of kind of putting that. Like Andrew Toney and the Boston Strangler, that's a ghost story moment for Boston. But for Philly, that's like massive. That they finally get over the hump. Andrew Toney goes off against the hated Celtics. It's like a huge thing, and or like even something as small as like the John Wall funeral game, which and like the Washington Wizards are like finally set to like go and like best Wizards team that's existed in modern NBA history. Beal and Wall are this young, exciting core. They're taking on the Celtics. They're gonna, they're all talking about we're gonna beat them, and then we're gonna beat Cleveland, and then we're gonna go to the Eastern Conference, win all that, and then they all dress up and wear black, and then they get punked by Isaiah Thomas having 52 points in Game 7, and Kelly Olynyk having the game of his life, and it's just like, it's just like these flashbulb moments that can mean so much and can mean so many different things to so many different people that I think are really fun. I'm curious, just in your own kind of Spurs fandom, I know we talked a little bit about some of the villains for Spurs fandom. We didn't quite get to your grail moments for the Spurs. And I guess I'm curious, what do those look like for you?
Well, the number one grail moment for the San Antonio Spurs is Sean Elliott's Memorial Day miracle. In the 1999 playoffs, they're playing the Portland Trail Blazers. They're up 1-0. They've never been to the finals. This is the Western Conference Finals. They have a chance to go up 2-0. They had been outplayed all game. They were like down double digits. They go on this run. They're down by 2 with like a couple seconds left. Mario Ellie inbounds the ball to Sean Elliott, who catches it on the right baseline. And as he catches it, he's going to fall out of bounds, but he stays on his tippy toes. Literally, there's a perfect shot of you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. There's like a zoom in shot of his feet where he's on his tippy toes. The out of bounds line is right underneath it. If he comes down, he's out, but he stays on them, shoots the ball over Rasheed Wallace, gives the Spurs a 1-point lead. They go on to win the game, and then when they end up sweeping the the Trailblazers, because the Trailblazers never recovered from that loss, and then they win their first championship. But that's the like grail moment for the Spurs. Everything was different after that ball dropped in from Sean Elliott. That's the number one runaway. Here's where it all changed moment for sure.
Yeah. I'm the only kind of moment that I can think of from this season for the Celtics that is going to be memorable to me, at least so far, is Jaylen Brown's hairline just repeatedly rubbing up on guys. Reminds me a little bit of another indelible moment, the kind of in-between ones. This is what I love about basketball, is that there's grail moments and there's ghost moments, but there's also these weird in-between ones. Like, for example, when Carlos Boozer just showed up with shoe polish on his head for a game. That was really cool. And I think, I think the book is awesome because it points out these kind of big, epic, emotional moments. But I think so much of what makes basketball fun for me is the weird, kind of goofy little in-between moments as well. So all this is to say, Shea, this book is awesome. And dear listeners, you should go out to an independent bookstore and get it. But we are also definitely awaiting the sequel to all of the random, like, silly micro moments in between the Ghost and the Grailed that make this up. And I would love to see that compilation as well. So Shea, we close the pod usually with the following: something to remember or something to forget. And this can be another thing that you kind of take in any direction. You can talk about basketball. You can talk about great memories from basketball or things to forget from basketball. You can talk about the Spurs. You can talk about what you had for breakfast this morning. It's kind of whatever you want it to be. We'll let you get the last word, and we'll kind of go around the horn and then drop that on you. Something to remember or something to forget. I need to remember that in late November in New York, it actually does become cold out, and you do have to dress appropriately. And last night, I did not dress appropriately. I dressed as if it was still regular, pleasant, late summer, early autumn type day, and I was punished for it. So I need to remember to dress more appropriately for the seasons. Dr. Quinn, what do you want to remember and or forget?
Oh boy, I think what I need to remember, and I think probably a lot of us are falling in, at least for the people listening, are falling into this camp as well. The Celtics are not necessarily trying to win games as an institution, like the players are, the coaching staff is, but they're trying to find players for the future, hone their craft, what have you, while Jason Tatum is out injured. And, like the win against the Memphis Grizzlies was great, made me feel good. But like those bad games, they're important too. And like they may not be fun to watch. We're going to be watching, I think, a lot more than we're used to this season. But I need to remember not to ride the emotional roller coaster this season, because I still find myself doing it, even though I've told myself like 50 million times not to.
Daniel, do you have something to remember and or forget?
Yeah, I got both. Actually, you talking about that Game 7, Alex, in 2010, I remembered that was kind of a ghost moment for me, because as a kid, I definitely cried after that. Like, when Ron Artest hit those threes and Kendrick Perkins was out, and maybe, who knows, if he plays, they could have won. I was like, oh, wow, I think I remember that a little more stinging. But for something to forget, I wanted to talk about this more in the news section, but we didn't have a ton of time. But Nico Harrison, just trying to forget him and what he did with the Lakers. 'Cause now that makes even less sense. Like, Anthony Davis is hurt, as most people probably could have predicted. Luka's having a possible MVP season so far. Like, this is just looking like the disaster everybody thought it was. And of course, now they have to fire him and make him fall on the sword a bit. But Patrick Dumont, you're also to blame there too.
Yeah. I think Dallas Mavericks cannot wait to forget Nico Harrison. Shea, what do you got as far as something to remember or something to forget?
I'll do a remember. Here's what you should remember. In 2003, the San Antonio Spurs, my beloved Spurs, wanted to win the championship. And they used to do this thing. They don't do it anymore. Now it's a mini movie. But before, they would do a thing where a team would win a championship, and then immediately you get a commercial for, like, order the shirt and the championship DVD, and you get this whole thing, right? And so I would always get those. On the championship DVD for the 2003 San Antonio Spurs, there's this part where they're interviewing David Robinson. And he is explaining that when they were playing the Lakers, game 5, the Lakers are down by 20-something points. They come all the way back. The game ends up in the hands of Robert Horry with a chance to win it for the Lakers. He's wide open. He's more open than anybody has ever been. Wide open 3. The Spurs are by 2. Robert Horry shoots it. The ball, again, wide open for a player that this is what he does. The ball goes in and then hits the back of the rim, the side of the rim, and then spits back out. And the Spurs go on to win that game and then win the championship, right? David Robinson is talking about that specific moment. And he said, you know, as game 5, when this is happening, when he watched the ball get spit out and they get the ball, they get the rebound and the game's over, he said, I knew right then we were going to win the championship. They're still 2 rounds away. I knew right then we were going to win. That was God telling me, you're going to win the championship this year in your final season. I mentioned that to say the universe is always talking to us. It's always telling you something. Pay attention. Pay attention to the signs that are there. Pay attention to the things it's trying to tell you, because there's some good shit on the way if you do. That's what you should remember.
Love it.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good way to cap things off. Shea Serrano is the guest on Havlicek Stole the Pod. The book is called Expensive Basketball, and it can be found at independent bookstores primarily, but also other places. Shea, where can we find the rest of your work?
Just Google Shea Serrano, and then whatever comes up, just grab whatever that is. Whatever pops up, get it.
Nice. Daniel, where can we find your work?
Yeah, I usually say the same thing. You can look me up on Google, but check me out, Daniel D1214 on Twitter for all the Celtics news and updates. And you can check me out on Clutch Points and right here, Celtics Wire, like Justin.
Dr. Quinn, where can we find your work?
You already said it. I mean, who are we kidding?
Fair enough. And you can find my work here largely. If you want to follow me on Instagram and or Blue Sky, that's your choice. I also play music for a band called Divine Sweater, and if you like streaming music and listening to good music, you can do that. This has been another episode of Havlicek Stole the Pod with Shea Serrano. Dear listeners, we'll talk to you soon.